Yeah, so now it's time for this bit of the show. Liam, what shitty joke have you prepared this time?
I haven't done any this
Oh,
time
okay, cool.
because
Housekeeping.
I was thinking maybe you should start linking
No.
into housekeeping because I don't think I can be trusted.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying it in like I should start doing silly things, but no. If it's yeah, I think we can maybe all agree that Liam might have got.
Not all of us. No,
No,
not
no,
all
no.
of us.
I'm not saying that they would agree that you've. I think even the people that enjoyed it might be willing to admit that perhaps it was a little bit too far.
We had a tweet from Tom
Yeah,
that said, "Am I pleased the housekeeing intro happened? Yes, yes, I am."
but I think that's almost him acknowledging that it was a bit problematic because he's like, am I pleased this happened? You know, did I want this to happen? Yeah, yeah, I am. Yeah, sure. So I think even Tom is like, ooh,
Yeah, I mean, I will say that the last link into housekeeping from last episode was maybe one of the most problematic parts of the show that you've ever not edited out.
yep, yeah, exactly, yeah. There's stuff I've cut that we've both been like, yeah, that makes sense. But listening to it, I was like, I want to cut it. I'll be honest with you, I went to myself, I went, Ellie, you got to cut that. And then I went, it's so borderline okay. Like, it's not okay that you did it.
No.
But I also couldn't merit editing it out because, I don't know, I was like, it's almost, you would have used it. You'd have said, oh, Ellie edited out my joke. Oh. And I was like, you know what? You know what, Liam? You said this. Hey, maybe sometimes these things have to stay in the show.
Have consequences. I played it to Kat and she went, it's so not okay that's why it's okay.
Yeah, I think that might be
because it's so outlandish that it's you have to assume that you're making a joke.
Yes, I think if it had been less of, if it had sounded like you were just very calmly saying it, it would have been more of a problem.
Yeah, and also what I did realise listening back is it did play like I was saying I was pro-life, which is very not true.
Yeah. Housekeeping.
Let's keep the house. Keep the house.
Yep.
Oh, we had tweets, didn't we?
Who tweeted us?
Who do you think?
The American religious right.
Well, you know.
Saying, thanks for joining us in our crusade, Liam.
Well, actually, before we talk about the last episode, Amanda tweeted us saying that she caught up with Game of Thrones and then she listened to our specials about it.
Yeah.
So she started off by saying she's almost done with season 6 and it's interesting to hear our season 7 predictions and hopes. And apparently Amanda just laughed out loud when I called Jorah the Explorer. And I tweeted back saying I don't remember our predictions, so like how far off base are we? I'm guessing very. And Amanda said that we were off in some ways, not in others. So she put some of our predictions, which were, I think one of the dragons will die. Tyrion is expendable at this point. And Ellie wanted more with the White Walkers, but she didn't want them to be the ultimate baddie. And you also didn't think that Jon and Dany would hook up because incest.
Yeah.
So, kind of interesting seeing that. And then we had another tweet from Amanda saying that she finished season 7 and listened to, again, our predictions and hearing them in hindsight. Apparently you thought that Cersei's pregnancy was bunk, and I thought Tyrion would turn on Dany because he was evil. So thanks, Amanda, for going back and checking out those specials. Kat tweeted us promoting our last episode, saying Liam talks about Booksmart in this, so go listen because it's a great film.
Yep.
Don't point that horror at me podcast tweeted us saying that we know you're waiting for our spring break episode and it'll be out soon, but in the meantime, if you miss Becky's overloud cackling and sarcasm, give Nerd on Nerd a listen. She talks point horror and The Omen.
I mean, you probably don't need to read out the tweets that aren't directed at us because that one isn't. That's just a promotional tweet that's not aimed at us.
We were tagged in it.
I'm going to edit that one out.
Amanda tweeted us.
It's just
Amanda
you
tweeted
a promotional
us.
tweet from another podcast about listening to an episode of our podcast. It's gone.
It's brilliant. I love it.
You need to learn.
Amanda tweeted us.
Yes, Amanda tweeted us.
Amanda tweeted us, and I think she's trolling you, and I hope she is because it's brilliant. She tweeted us saying, "So excited for a nice long episode," because you've been quite vocal in your feelings towards long episodes.
That they're a nightmare hellscape that I have to edit.
Yeah, and I love that Amanda's just like very aware that that's how you feel about them, and is still just like, I love that you've got a long episode coming out.
I don't think Amanda is trolling me. I think Amanda just legitimately enjoys the long episodes and doesn't think she's not like you, Liam. She's not malicious.
I am, but it's funnier if you read it as her trolling you.
I will not until Amanda tweets in and says, "Yes, I was trolling you."
Alright, Frankie, at Brisk Frankie, tweeted us saying, Ellie, I'm with you. In his first few scenes, I thought the photographer in The Omen was not nice and was going to be a bit of a bad guy. Was glad when that turned out to not be the case.
Yep.
Amanda said, the question that Becky asks about the volume on the TV is so relatable, it took me years to not have to have an even number. And she's so sad that 2/3 of us haven't had an amazing meatball. I think the key is they need to be giant and soft for the most part, and I'm all for having them in meat sauce.
I am for a much smaller meatball.
Yeah, I mean,
but then
out of the three of us, who
that's
did
part
have a good
of my.
meatball?
I think I'm the one that doesn't specifically say I've never had a good meatball, but I can't remember. Maybe
Okay.
maybe I'm not. I can't remember for certain.
Yeah,
but
I think the thing with meatballs, right, is it's never like, if you have like a meatball dish, you're never like, oh, that meatball was amazing. It would always be like either like the sauce or the pasta it was with or something.
But I've had good
just...
meatballs. Like, I've had good Swedish meatballs. Swedish meatballs are fucking delicious.
Oh, fuck off. Disagree entirely with everything you just said.
Weird. The person
saying...
that didn't like meatballs isn't supporting my idea that I like some meatballs.
Yeah. Amanda tweeted saying, what is the video nasty list? And I realised that we didn't really like go into that.
Oh, God.
So
history lesson with Liam.
It's just very quickly, basically, in the 70s in the UK, the BBFC, the British Board of Film Censorship, or they rebranded to classification.
Oh, I was going to say, I knew it was classification. I didn't
realise
realise they were called censorship before. Fair enough.
Yeah, in the 70s it was. Basically, in the 70s, and 80s specifically, let me rephrase that. In the 80s, all of the like exploitation films that had come out in like the 70s and the 80s, film marketers had realised that if you stick like a really lurid front cover on the video boxes, they would sell well. And also some of the films were just like the sort of exploitation gross films like Cannibal Holocaust and that sort of thing. These films were doing really well. The BBFC clamped down to protect the children, obviously, and banned like a huge list of these like nasty films. Things like Driller Killer were on that list, and there was like 70 films in total or something in the end. And it's just a weird thing where now a lot of those films have been released uncut in the UK, which again shows how like attitudes towards censorship changes over time.
Yep.
And a lot of these films, you know, aren't great films in the first place and definitely didn't deserve to be censored in the way that they were. And it's weird but interesting. It's an interesting piece of history, but equally it just, as someone who already dislikes some of what the BBFC stands for, it's one of those examples of them just really sticking their nose in when they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Like, I get the need for like providing classifications to films and telling like parents like this is what's in that film.
Yeah, because you couldn't show stuff in the cinema and be like, "There's no age rating, just go see whatever," and a parent's just like, "I guess I'll go see Hostel with my kid."
Exactly. Yeah, so I get that, but where I dislike the BBC is when they start suggesting cuts and stuff to get ratings. So like a perfect example is The Woman in Black, Daniel Radcliffe film. Initially came in at a 15, and then they made suggestions to tone down the horror so it would get a 12A so it could hit up that sweet Harry Potter audience. Yeah, and that's where I take umbrage with it.
Yeah, they should just
and
be
equally
ratings and not be providing feedback on here's how you'd get lower if you wanted.
Yeah.
They should just be like, this is the classification.
Yeah, and equally there was a while back now, but recent-ish, there was a whole load of issue with the Human Centipede 2, where like the BBFC wanted cuts before they'd even give it an 18 certificate, which is the highest certificate you can get in the UK.
Yeah,
and it's like, no, if you're giving it an 18 certificate, that means it's for adults and over. Don't start cutting what I should be able to see if you agree that this is only for adults.
Yep.
So yeah, that's just video nasties in a nutshell. Basically, I could go on a very long rampage about all of that, but no one wants that. Amanda tweeted saying, have any of us read or watched Good Omens? Obviously, you've just reviewed that. And Becky also responded saying it's one of her favourite books. She's read it maybe 3 times, and she's 3 episodes into the show, a lot of which she likes, and she's generally enjoying it a lot. And Amanda said she started the show last night, and she's read the book before. She's looking forward to Ellie's review.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Also, as she was listening to our breakdown of The Omen, she kept thinking about the opening chapter / first episode of Good Omens. She loves the book and is liking the show so far.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the house that's been kept. Have you done any like previous like culture swappy things? Like read any more? I don't know, Spider-Gwen or Sunstone?
I don't think so.
No?
Don't think so. But Liam, it's obviously not all of it, is it? You idiot. Because this is part of housekeeping, you big fool. Last time I asked you, which was on the last episode, surprisingly, you still had to watch 1,090 films. Now, Liam, as listeners heard at the beginning, you've had a full week off.
Yeah.
I am expecting, honestly, I'm expecting a big number. I'm expecting some of the big changes we've had before. Like, I could almost ask for a -14 here, I think, and not be unreasonable.
It's not going to be anything like that, because, like I said, a lot of that week was playing video games. Well, a lot of it. Like, I watched some movies, but mostly video games. But we are now down to 1,084.
So 6 films.
Yeah.
Which
isn't bad. It's not bad.
Not on track, though.
What do you mean not on track?
Not on track to get below 1,000.
Well, I've still got 84 to do this year, right?
Yeah.
There's still 6 months to go?
Yeah. Yes.
How many a month is that?
Well, let me just, instead of doing it that way, Liam, let's go, you started at 1,115 and you're down to 1,084. So you've watched 30 films and you've got 84 left to watch. So in half a year, you haven't done half of the films, would be my way of gauging it. So not on track was a fairly accurate statement.
But I've hardly bought any films.
Yeah, and
that's the most impressive part.
No, it isn't. The most impressive part is that you haven't bought many films and you've only watched 30. Like, any other year that we had done this, if you hadn't bought films, you probably would have hit the goal. And yet somehow in the year that you've managed to not buy films, you've somehow fucked yourself a different way. It's like some part of you doesn't want to win.
I've just not been watching as many. I've just not been watching as many films.
Are you
lately.
a masochist, Liam?
No.
Are you getting off on the punishments?
No, I'm narcissist.
That's true.
That's the ist that I am.
Okay.
Sexist narcissist.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, there's 2 ists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just a joke, listeners. Liam loves women.
He loves women, but he is also a narcissist. That bit wasn't a joke, the sexist bit.
No, that bit wasn't. Just the sexist bit. Yeah.